What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us. If you're at home watching this on Facebook, we appreciate you. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so being able to participate on Facebook is a good thing. We are here live at the SBDC office. I think right now we have a couple people here live.
We've got 300 people in here. No one has a mask.
Exactly.
Just kidding.
Exactly. Obviously, Eric and I are pretty far apart, so no need to worry about social distancing. We're good here. So anyways, I am excited. Eric, are you excited about this?
I'm excited. We've got about 13 pieces of equipment in here, and we're just trying to figure out what's going to go wrong first. But so far, we're off to a good start.
Right, which is the nature of learning how to be a podcaster, right?
Absolutely.
We learn by making errors and screwing things up. But the goal here today is for you to walk away after watching this for about an hour and a half. I don't know, hour, however long this takes. But you should be able to start a podcast at some level just by what you get taught in this seminar. So I don't know. I mean, anything you want to say, Eric, before we get cooking?
Our first comment's LOL.
LOL.
So we're off to a good start.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm super excited. So we've got Rob has put together an extensive presentation today. So we'll be bouncing back from presentation to shots of Rob, shots of both of us, and we hope to just answer some questions, kind of talk a little bit about some gear. But the most important thing that we really want to do today is we want to speak to those who are like, man, I really want to do this. I want to do this. I don't know how. I don't know what it takes. We want to really just speak to you to get you to take the first step. Even if all you're doing is recording a podcast with your cell phone. Like, you'd be surprised what you can do with this iPhone right here in your hand. So we hope to encourage somebody to take action today. I'd say that's the goal. Rob, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, so Eric, do you listen to podcasts personally?
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
So I do too. I love podcasts. When I traveled an hour to work every day, I lived by podcasts, and I learned so much. If this is a thing you've not discovered yet, I encourage you to figure it out. It will help you grow. But as we're going to talk about, there's a huge opportunity right now for businesses.
Yep.
And so I know you're interested in that, helping people figure out how to spread your message to their ideal customer. And that's why we have you here today. Eric, can you just take a second and introduce yourself and give people an idea of why I invited you to help me do this?
You said a second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 20.
Yeah. So Rob and I have been working together. Rob helped me start a small business about 2 or 3 years ago. I literally walked in here with an idea. Didn't know how to get started. I just had an idea and didn't know like the proper steps to take. Like, I knew the thing that I liked to do, and I saw an opportunity that I thought I could make money at. But I have a bachelor's degree in social work, so by no means was I taught how to make money in college or school or anything like that growing up. So Rob basically sat down with me we had a weekly reoccurring Friday 7:30 a.m. meeting where we sat week after week after week, and we would sit and I'd say, Rob, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out how to do this website. I'm trying to set up these emails, or just trying to set up how do I do this? And we would sit down and we'd talk. And by the end of the time that we sat down together, the cool thing is that I would have some tactical steps that Rob would say, okay, but by the time you come back next week, this is what I need you to do if you want to continue on this path of having your own business. So I would go, and like, I was working a full-time job, so I would go and I would, on the weekends or in the morning or late in the evening, I would just, work on my business on the side. And
what's interesting about you, though, is that a lot of people we share information with, and quite honestly, probably a lot of people who are watching this today, you're going to hear this and say you're going to do it, but not do it. Eric actually did these things. And so I want to encourage you, don't just hear this. Don't just listen to this. Do this. Try this. It will be rough at first. That's okay. That's how you learn. Like, your stuff was rough at first.
Yeah, man, it was really rough. But, the punchline is that over the course of about 2 years, I was able to start, of course, with some help. I got some partners and some family and some friends and a good support system. But over the course of 2 years or so, with the help of the Small Business Development Center, I was able to open a few businesses. And, I'm actually, my birthday was just a couple of days ago. I just turned 33, but the date that I'm excited about the most is February 14th, because that's the day I quit my job in 2020. Yeah. Get goosebumps talking about that. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. And that the fear of, man, I'll never be able to do this. We're recording a podcast right now, aren't we? Did we plan this? Are we recording a podcast?
Yeah.
We're recording a podcast right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, just super excited, man, because I no longer have to depend on that 9 to 5. I don't have to beg somebody for a raise. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to like, man, I only get to make $22.47.5 this hour. Like if I want to make $200 an hour, I'd find a way to deliver $200 worth of value per hour, and I do it. So,
well, you heard it here, guys. Dreams come true when you go to the SBDC.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you said, right?
Dreams come true when you come to SBDC. Yeah. Get your dreams together.
Hey, if you have questions throughout this, go ahead and pop them into the comments field. Eric, you are monitoring those things, right?
Yeah, I just got a happy belated birthday. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate that.
And I think you need to stop with this 33 years old stuff because I'm turning 40 in 8 days. So you don't need to go there, man.
We got Casey Tingley says, I'm at work literally painting and was just thinking 10 minutes ago, I'm going to come see Rob soon. Casey, if you want to, like, here's the let me share a fact with you. Most people don't need a business coach. If you really want to, if you want to just try to do this on your own, you could stumble along and you could bump your head and you can learn everything the hard way. You could do that. Or you could come in here and talk to how many coaches you guys have that are on staff here at SBDC?
Well, we have 12 different people you could talk to.
12 different people that you could talk to, regardless of whatever it is you want to do. And if you have that coach, and did I mention this is a free service that you can get from SBDC? So if you come in here and take advantage of this free service, what you might be able, Casey, I'm talking to you, what you might be able to accomplish in a year on your own, you could accomplish in like 3 weeks with the right business coach and the right action behind it. Because like you can have a plan and not do anything with it. Yeah. I know how to lose weight, but I'm still overweight right now. I'm just not very motivated in that area of my life at the moment. So yeah.
Hey man, let's get into it. We have wasted enough time here, although it wasn't wasted. This is good stuff.
Last comment, Brittany Mattis says camera quality is on point. Appreciate that. We'll take that one.
No relation, right?
No relation. No, that's my wife there.
All right. So, hey, I'm going to be presenting a lot of the content on the front end. Eric's going to be providing color commentary along the way. He's kind of the technical expert. I am the one who likes to teach, and Eric loves to teach too. So hopefully between the two of us, we're going to get you where you need to go. I want to talk about podcasting and the popularity of it, just in case you did not know. So over the last 15 years or so, podcasting has went from something that really nobody is doing or listening to becoming very, very popular. If you look at this chart, you'll notice that it has just been like a roller coaster straight up for the past 6 or so years. So just explosive growth. And this is the number of new podcasts being published every single year.
So I'm curious, Rob, right there. Let me stop you, which I'll probably do several times throughout this. What podcast do you listen to?
Oh man, I listen to a lot of online marketing podcasts. Amy Porterfield is one that I really sunk my teeth into. I probably listened to her for a year and a half straight. She taught me how to do webinars and online courses and email drip sequences.
Yep.
And man, that stuff was so valuable. Nobody teaches you that in college. You only get that on webinars.
So you've got a self-education through podcasts, correct?
For sure.
And the reason I say that,
I kid people. I got a master's degree in email marketing. I got it from listening to podcasts.
And the only reason I say that is simply because right here, when we take a look at the explosive growth in podcasting, right? 2006, it's low on the map. But today, in 2019, 2020, 2021, everybody's listening to podcasts. So if you're at home watching this right now and you listen to podcasts, you're listening to this, you're watching this for a reason. Comment below, like, what podcast do you listen to? I want to see the why. Okay, so we got a Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn. I love Pat Flynn. Yeah.
He was the other one besides Amy Porterfield for me.
Blake says, we just started doing a podcast for our clients and they love it, most definitely. So Blake is a good example of a business that's taking advantage of this podcasting and reaping the benefits of it.
And probably one of just a very handful of accountants who are even trying to tackle podcasting right now. We're still kind of early in this game. As much as it has exploded, there is still room for you to come in and dominate your niche, your industry.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Next slide.
All right. So who exactly is listening? First of all, on a weekly basis, 1 out of every 4 Americans is listening to a podcast. If you think this is fringe, it's not. It's mainstream, you guys. There are heavy listeners, people who listen for 6 hours a week. Probably those same kind of people that listen on their commute every single day. That's still 10% of all Americans. There are a lot of your customers who are listening to podcasts, and you're not talking into their ear if you're not podcasting. Now, there are some differences between people who tend to listen to podcasts and people who do not. So it kind of depends on who you see as your target market. But if you serve someone who tends to be more educated, more wealthy, more in the white collar types of jobs, they definitely are a lot more likely to be listening to podcasts. You can see these charts here. Like if you've got a postgraduate degree, you are 68% more likely than the average American to be listening to a podcast. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you can actually make money with your podcast too.
You can make money with a podcast?
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
how do you do that?
So companies who want to get their message in front of their ideal customer, they can put a billboard up, they can put a TV commercial out, they can do radio commercials. What they're realizing is there's a lot of people listening to podcasts. It's a captive audience. And so if you find the right podcast who serves your kind of customer, a 30-second ad on a podcast is fantastic. It's money well spent right now. It's probably undervalued as a form of advertising. This chart here shows you how much the ad spend on podcasting has grown.
So what you're saying, Rob, is that if I had a podcast where business owners listen to my podcast, I could potentially reach out to maybe like a tax expert and say, hey, Mr. Blake Schaefer from LWS, I'll give you a 30-second spot on my podcast for a couple $100. And every week I have 3,000 listeners. You think he might pay me for that?
He might pay me for that for an SBDC podcast.
He might pay Rob for that.
Yeah, Blake, I'll talk to you after this about
definitely.
Sponsoring virtual SBDC, the new podcast we're going to launch today.
So let me ask you this, Rob. Do you think that it's wise for somebody to start this venture with the goal in mind of, I want to make money off of it?
I don't think it's unwise. Not every podcast makes money, that's for sure, but that's business. Mm-hmm. Not every business makes money. Half of them go out of business.
Correct.
After 3 years. So I think we all start that with the ideal scenario happening. And if money drives you and you think podcasting is the way, awesome, man, more power to you. But just have fun with it. Be willing to learn and make mistakes. It's still going to be a growing experience. You're still going to come out ahead even if you try and fail at this. The more you're trying to talk to your audience, learn the right messaging, that's going to help you in all areas of business.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And Rob, what Rob's doing right now with his presentation is he's simply trying to show you the benefits of the podcast. We're going to get into the technical pieces on like how you set it up, what gear we're using today. You see a bunch of expensive stuff on the table right here, but I recommend if you're going to start a podcast and you want to do it and you want to do it right, invest some money into it. You know, spend a couple $100, spend $1,000, put some skin in the game. Show your audience or yourself that you really are serious about this. But like I said, if you don't have $1,000 to spend and you just have a phone, like you can literally get started with this phone today. So continue to educate us, Rob. What's next?
All right. So we're getting a little text heavy here, but in terms of podcasting trends, women and millennials, it's getting much more popular for them. So if that's the kind of customer you serve, think about podcasting. It's coming up in those demographics. It's the same reason you get on YouTube or you get on Facebook. You want to be entertained or you want to learn. It's the same reasons why people want to listen to a podcast. So if you can be entertaining while you're teaching people something about your business and get them to subtly start buying from you, that is the goal. That's the win. All right, so if you saw this post, you might have seen my weird headline. Eric's like, I have no idea what the Oklahoma land rush is.
Yeah, I still don't know what it is.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson. But first, let me tell you that for every one podcast that's out there that's published right now, there are 49 YouTube channels and, get this, 667 blogs. Every business, I think, has to get good at creating content. And so you basically have three platforms. You can write in the form of a blog. You can do videos in the form of a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, or you can do a podcast, which is audio. What I'm suggesting is that audio is where there's a lot of land left still to grab, just like the Oklahoma land rush. Mm-hmm. So I taught you what the Oklahoma land rush is. I wonder
if you gave me a multiple choice test on it right now, I'd fail.
So if you don't know, what happened is back when when the United States got possession of the Oklahoma territory, they needed people to inhabit that land, to move west. And so what they did is they had surveyors go out, they marked off plots of land, and then it was like 1, 2, 3, go, and everyone's driving off in their Conestoga wagons and horses, and the first one to get to their little plot of land that they wanted picks the flag up and claims their land. They claimed their stake. That's where that phrase comes from.
Stake, claim your stake. Okay, I got that now. It makes sense to me.
So what I'm saying is, if you're an accounting firm, if you're Blake, and there's no other accounting firms killing it as a podcast,
he's staking his claim.
You can go out there and stake your claim.
You use a business analogy, and I understand that. You had to tell me the right story, Rob. So I get it now.
The thing is though, like if you're going to do a blog about accounting, I promise you, there's 100 other blogs. There's probably dozens of YouTube channels about accounting. Podcasts, maybe not. That's why it's the wild, wild west still.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So, history lesson as well as business lessons. All right, Eric, we're going to get into your territory now, talk a little bit about equipment. We're going to talk about like what you can do on the very low end as well as all the way up to like legitimately nice stuff, which is what we got here today. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, good stuff. So I strictly like to speak from experience because I think that if I am trying to speak to something that's not my experience, I'm maybe giving you some BS, and I don't want to do that. So I'll speak to what we have here today. So the microphone that we're currently using right now is a Shure SM7B. Now, and I'm by no means an audio engineer or an expert in sound quality or anything like that, but I know that this microphone, comment below if you think this microphone sounds good. We've even got a little bit of a air conditioner or this presentation thing up top here that's kind of making a little bit of
that's called a projector.
A projector, whatever the thing is. It's making some noise in the background, but I believe, we tested it beforehand. I could hear it a little bit, but preferably if you're recording a podcast, you'd want to be in a as soundproof possible of a room that you could possibly be in. Mm-hmm. And, you can buy some audio foam or hang up blankets or, record a podcast in a room that has carpet in it, whatever you got to do. Just you want to make sure that sound is, of course, it's audio, so you want your sound to be on point. If your audio sounds like crap, people aren't going to listen to it, even if you have the best information, right?
Even with good video, if your audio is bad, they hate it.
You could interview a really high-level person, and if it doesn't sound good, people are not going to want to listen to it.
Yep.
So we have some expensive microphones that are here today. Like I said, these are the Shure SM7Bs. These are going into some cloud lifters, which boost the gain. Don't know why you need that. Again, I'm not an audio engineer, but I know that it sounds better with that extra piece right there. These microphones, somebody says here, I've recorded in the closet. Yeah, that's if you got to do what you got to do. If you're trying to get your message out there and you got to record in a closet, you got to do what it takes.
Hey, nobody can hear you in there either.
And nobody can hear you in there. Yeah. Until you hit that publish button, huh?
Well, yeah, true.
And or Lori Folks has a parking lot. We recorded probably 10 or 12 parking lot podcasts, most definitely. You really got to do with whatever you have available to you. You don't want to. You could give yourself the excuse. You could say, well, I don't have a podcast studio. I don't have professional this or I don't have professional that. Like even with all this expensive stuff right here, you could still like buy more. So you don't want to fixate on that. You want to focus on just really getting the content out there.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about the good stuff here in a few slides. I want to talk about a cheap setup that you can do if you just don't have a couple $1,000 or $1,000 to throw at this, okay?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so let's say you want to start small. What I'm suggesting here is something that will cost you $99. And in this COVID age, a lot of us already have a microphone, so it may be free. I already had this microphone from doing Zoom calls. So for $99, you can get an ATR 2100 microphone. It's got great reviews on Amazon. This is a USB microphone, so it plugs right into your computer. And you just need some earbuds stick in your ear so you can hear how this sounds. You can make a podcast with just that. It's one microphone, so your podcast is just going to be you or maybe someone on Skype on the telephone with you. Audacity is free software. So honestly, you can get started probably tonight with what you already have.
Absolutely.
And it will sound just as good as probably half the podcasts that are out there.
Yep. And
if you like this, if it's gaining traction and you realize this is worth the investment, then you can take that $99 investment and turn it into something bigger because it pays you back.
Yep. And I feel like, me personally, the downside of this type of setup right here is that if you take a look at the setup, it's a setup for, it looks like one person, right? You could probably hook a couple extra microphones up to that, but I'm a fan of I want to let's bring a 3 or 4 people together and just have a good long conversation. That's the type of stuff that I listen to, and that's the type of stuff that I like to create. So what we have right here, and I know you can't see it very well, but this is a Rodecaster Pro. And I think this thing's like $400 or $500. But basically what this allows us to do is we could have 4 microphones plugged into this bad boy right here. We can control all the audio levels. I can see all the audio levels. If I wanted to, I could call somebody on my cell phone and connect Bluetooth to this Rodecaster right here, and I could literally record a podcast with somebody over my cell phone with this Rodecaster Pro here. And it of course gives us the ability to we got an SD card plugged in the back here, so we can record straight to the board. Or what we can also do, like we're doing right now, is we can have it running out into the computer to record to the computer as well.
So show them my computer screen, because I got the back of your
there it
Rodecaster
is
on there.
Good stuff. Yep. So that's the Rodecaster Pro. Love it. So you can see you got the 4 audio inputs. You got headphones, which we're not using headphones today. We could if we had some with us. We just don't have any with us today. Then you've got your USB. You got your micro SD card. So yeah.
So yeah, you could have a phone. Running audio into there, your computer, several microphones. Here's what the top of it looks like. Walk us through what people see on their screen there.
So this is the front of the audio interface, the Rodecaster Pro. So as you can see, we've got the knobs for all of the gain controls. There's tons of different settings and functions, and like you see all those different colorful buttons. Like I'm going to hit one right now just to see what it does.
Make it applaud.
Oh, I've got the sound effects muted. You see, I don't even know how to use this thing all the way, so here I am looking dumb on my own recording. But you can have different sounds and stuff set up in here and make it basically laugh or clap, or you can have intros or outros or all different types of stuff. It may have even actually went over it. It may still be playing. I don't know. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not. All right, so let's scoot back a couple of slides here. So going big here, what I'm suggesting is a $2,600 setup. Okay, it's expensive, but it's not crazy. $2,600 will get you a top-of-the-line podcast experience for people. So this is 4 microphones, Rode Procasters. That allows you to have 3 guests plus a host.
Yep.
They're going to need shock mounts or booms or something. Right now, we've got tabletop mic stands, but there's ones where you're going to adjust them around with the boom arm.
Yep.
The Rodecaster, which Eric was just showing you, you need headphones for your guests to be able to hear. That's not even necessary. Eric and I don't have on headphones today.
No, I mean, I probably should have brought some over here. It's just, having to, the prop. So let me mention this real fast. Chuck just had a good comment on here. He said, a podcasting rental studio in Springfield could be a new good business startup. You're absolutely right. And the problem with the setup that I have is that most of the time, like if Rob says, hey, let's record a podcast or let's record a video, what I end up having to do is go down to my office and round up, 47 little pieces of gear. And by the time I get here, I only have 46 and I got to run back to the office to forget because I forgot something, So you're absolutely right, Chuck. That would be a great idea. So if folks are interested in a podcast studio, comment below if somebody wants to start one. Contact your business coach at SBDC. I'm sure he'd love to help.
It's so funny you said that because at SBDC we've been doing a new strategic plan, and we're all excited about taking the conference room that's next door to our office and turning that into a production studio that any small business owner could come in and record a YouTube video or a podcast. So Dr. Blonin at Clark State, if you're listening, we want that conference room. It needs to be a podcast studio.
Okay, now we're getting some convo going on here. Heather says we got some business partners, Chuck. So it looks like Heather's got a good idea. She wants to maybe partner up on that. Good stuff. Looks like we got some stuff out in Cleveland as well, too. The Cleveland Public Libraries have recording studios for rent. Yeah, I know that there's some cool stuff going on in the Dayton Public Libraries as well, too.
They have one there, too.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I've thought about it before.
So does Clark County Library. They just put that in within the last year, I think.
Yep. So I think we just need motivated people. I think that if enough people were to comment below and say, Rob, get the podcasting booth set up in SBDC, let's start making some waves. Let's do it. I think if enough people rally behind it, I think you guys can make that happen.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think so. So guys, there's 2 different categories of microphones. One of them has a USB plug-in. That's what my Yeti here is. They tend to be a little more on the more affordable side. The sound quality may not be as good. Others plug in using an XLR microphone. Let's see. There we go. I'm controlling 2 different screens.
Yeah, it's
I gotta
just a
get
little
synced up. So the XLR microphone cable is what most like bigger systems are going to use. The sound quality is fantastic. It's hardwired. I assume that's what you tend to use with your stuff.
Yeah. So right now with these microphones here, we have XLR cables running from them, and if you notice this Blue Yeti right here, this is a USB microphone.
Yeah.
So that's the difference there.
I put pictures of microphones at all different price ranges, from the $99 microphone we talked about earlier, all the way up to the ones we have here, right? That's the SM7B.
Yep.
$400 a piece.
So let me just speak for these Rode Pod mics right here, these $99 Rode Pod mics. These are very, very good quality microphones. If you're just getting started, they're XLR microphones. They don't require any phantom power. I'm sure you may talk a little bit about that. They're high quality microphones.
Phantom power is your little cloud lifter you talked about?
Phantom power powers the cloud lifter, but then it does not require phantom power going into this microphone here. So it's again, I'm not an audio engineer. I just know that some microphones you got to click that 48 volt button on. So
yeah. In the middle, you see my Blue Yeti there at $130. So we showed you what the audio interface looks like. If you're going to have multiple lines of audio coming in, you're going to want this interface. If it's just you can get away with not having that. So you talked about enjoying podcasts where they have guests. I'm the same way. I think most of the most popular show formats are ones where it's a constant stream of new guests on there. Mm-hmm. Why do you think those are more popular?
It's because this is the problem, right? So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, and let's say you're that person that does, right? One of the first challenges that you'll run into is, what type of content do I create? You know, like let's use Blake for example. And if you follow Blake at LWS, you'll be able to see the progression of things that he talks about and things that he does. But let's say you're an accountant, right? And you say, okay, today I'm going to make a podcast about doing your taxes in 2020 because that's the big hit right now. That's the big talk. That's what's going on. And then next week you do a talk about the stimulus check. And then you go to week 3 and you're like, we've talked about taxes. We talked about the stimulus. What can we talk about now? Oh, I don't have anything else to talk about, so I'm going to quit. Now, the cool thing about bringing guests on is that if I'm Blake, or if I'm somebody who's starting a podcast, I can say, who else is somebody that maybe uses my services, or maybe who's somebody else that's in my industry, or who's the expert, or who's somebody that's in the community that other people may know, like, and trust, that I can bring onto my podcast to bring their audience along to listen to me, to listen to them on my show. Then you start thinking strategically. Then it takes the pressure off you. You don't necessarily have to think, what am I going to talk about? You can say, who can I interview? Yeah. Right. And for me, that's the style of podcasting that I particularly really like to listen and like to create, as well as the interview style.
Yeah. And let's be honest, most of us are only experts in so many things. So we can talk really intelligently about 5 to 10 topics, but if you need to cover 100 topics over the course of a couple of years, you need to go out and find experts who are an expert in that one thing that you may not be that great at. Yep. Not only is that going to help your audience better, but it's actually going to help you grow so much as the podcast host. You're going to learn a lot just by interviewing so many smart people.
Yep. So I don't want to digress here, but a friend of mine reached out to me a couple of months ago and said, Eric, I'm thinking about making this career change. I'm thinking about going from this to this, but I don't really know how to do it or how I get started. And a suggestion that I give this man was, I said, look, making this career change is going to be difficult because, when you make a career change, people aren't going to know you for this new thing. You're still going to have this old previous identity, right? So just because you say, hey, I used to do this, but now I do this, doesn't mean you're an expert in this. Doesn't mean people are going to come for you for your services. Yeah. And this was the suggestion I gave him. I said, if I was you, right, or here's an idea, I would write down a list of 20 people who are experts in this space, who have been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years, who know exactly what they're talking about, who can just talk about this stuff in their sleep. And I'd reach out to them and say, hey, I'm starting a new podcast. Do you mind if I interview you because you're an expert at this particular thing right here? Can I interview you? Right. And the cool thing is that if you were to interview 20 experts in this new field that you're in, now all of a sudden you're in the ring with 20 experts. Now all of a sudden you got to interview the top 20 people. So you get to ask all the good questions and get all the good information. And most importantly, you've got all the content. Yeah. Right. So that's a good strategy. I mean, and that's not just for somebody who's starting something new. Maybe you've been in the same industry for 10, 20, 30 years and you're like, I want to spice it up a little bit. Maybe I'm going to reach out to some new people. Maybe I'm going to reach out to some retired people. Maybe I'm going to reach out to some customers. You know, if you've been in the game for a long time and you reach out to 20 of your past customers and say, hey, can I interview you about the services? Or can I interview you about why you bought a house or why you sold a house or why, you know what I'm saying? Like, you create the content. You don't have to be the expert. You can be the reporter. You can be somebody who goes around and says, hey, tell me about your experience when you did this. And like literally you can just let somebody share their story on your podcast. Your podcast could be, hey, I'm Eric from New Life Productions. Today I'm going to interview this business expert. Take it away and just let this person talk for 20 or 30 minutes. And that's the show. Yeah. You know, it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. So content doesn't have to be something that holds you up.
So earlier somebody mentioned Pat Flynn. Pat used to be in a mastermind group. He may still be, actually. And one of the gals in his mastermind group created a podcast where she would interview millionaires. Every episode was a different millionaire she would interview. And wouldn't you know it, a few years later, do you think she's a millionaire?
Yeah, absolutely.
She's a millionaire.
Absolutely.
You level up. The more you hang around people who are at a higher level than you, you will level up.
Yep.
No doubt. I'm sure you could attribute some of that.
Well, I mean, just by the simple, so let me share this. When we first started this episode today, the reason I think Rob brought me on and wanted to help, facilitate this is Rob said to me, well, I'm not the expert in this right here. Well, I'm not an expert either. You know what I'm saying? Like, what
are we doing?
Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about. Don't even listen to us. But no, I've recorded probably, 50 or 60 of my own type segment podcasts. I've done some stuff with the Springfield Hustles. I got to interview some people, and I just know that it's cool. It's fun, So you don't have to be the expert in it, but you just got to be able to get started. And the format, it doesn't really matter what your format is. Just get started. Share your story.
For those in the room today, by the way, if you have a question, like somehow get our attention. I don't mean to have my back turned to you or ignore you guys.
And for those watching at home, we've got 600 people in here today, so we've got a large audience.
Right.
Just kidding.
They're very quiet. Nice. Let's talk about some of the different formats you could choose from, though. The first one is interviews, which is what we've been talking about. You have a host, and then every episode you're going to have a guest. Every once in a while, it may just be the host. You got something important to say. But it's kind of hard to talk for an hour straight sometimes about anything without a guest being with you.
So we got a question here, Rob. Question is, Heather asked, it said, would the audio interface be necessary when having a guest via phone? Good question. So if you could simply record a podcast with just your iPhone if that's all you had, right? You could do that. I could call somebody and record a podcast with just my phone. I believe the question you may be asking is, with this Rodecaster Pro, can you call somebody and have a guest via phone? The answer is yes to that. So if that answers your question, I hope it did. If not, you can go ahead and ask that and ask it again.
The way I interpret it is, do you have to have a Rodecaster? I would say if you can call them on your laptop using Skype or Zoom, something like that, and capture that audio, you can make it work.
A guy interviewed me a few months ago, and he records all his podcasts on Zoom.
Yeah.
He simply just does Zoom recording. He'll send somebody a link. He sent me a link, and we recorded it, and he was just on his computer, on his laptop. And he's done over 100 podcasts this year.
Yeah. There are services you can pay for that records the other person's audio separately, and it uploads it to a server that you can download. So you actually have your audio file that you captured on your microphone and their audio file separate that it captured on their end that didn't travel through the internet.
Yep.
So yes, where there is a will, there is a way when it comes to making a podcast.
Most definitely.
A conversational format. So this might have multiple hosts. This is when you got 3 or 4 buddies and maybe not guests, but you got multiple people, and it's just, we're going to have a conversation and kick it for a while. It's a different style. I don't often see that with businesses. It could work for something like with an SBDC where maybe it's just a bunch of us business coaches chatting about things that we like to talk about. Not very common, though. I'll say that. Educational. I would call this like a course, an audio course, where over the over the span of maybe 20 episodes, you teach someone how to do something from A to Z. Like if you're going to have a pristine yard, you're going to teach them in the span of 10 episodes how to get that yard, and hopefully convince them, I don't want to do all that work. I'm going to hire you as my landscaper, something like that. So it's educational. You're trying to teach them a skill using audio as your format.
We got some, Jeff Turner says, this is groundbreaking information. Jeff, thank you. Zoom just released the PodTrack P4, $199, and it has 4 inputs. Amazing little machine. Oh, okay, so Zoom. So he's talking like the Zoom box. I thought he meant like Zoom. I don't know. Maybe he is talking about the Zoom, like the software Zoom. So I believe he's talking about the audio interface, but good stuff.
Well, maybe Zoom, the company, came out with an audio interface.
Yeah, there's. I don't know if you can pull up a picture of a Zoom H6. Can you pull up a picture? Just go to Google real fast, or a Zoom H4 or Zoom H6. It's literally just it's a little small, it's an audio interface box that if you had the Zoom H6, I'm sure Rob can pull it up here for you real fast and show you. There we go. Yep. So there's the Zoom, there's the H4 and the H6. Yeah, so that's a small audio interface. You could literally sit this thing down between 2 people and just click record, and it would record you. A couple $100. No need to, stress yourself out about not having the most expensive gear, the top line and stuff. You start with whatever you got.
Next, we have a solo cast. This is how a lot of people start, and I would guess a lot of people fizzle out because they're just not that interesting a lot of times. But if you think you've got the personality and the great content where you could get away with a solo cast, go for it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not that kind of person. But you don't need a co-host. You don't need guests. You can just do this based on your own experience and your advice and your fantastic personality.
Yep.
So we need to talk about how to actually create a podcast, right? That's what we promise people.
Are we going to talk about it, or can we actually do it?
We're going to talk. We're going to tell you, and then we're going to show you. We're going to do it together.
Okay, let's do it.
How about that? So first of all, we got to record some audio, and so step number 1 is you got to get your microphones working. So you plug your microphones in, you test your audio levels. Now we're getting into some nerd stuff here, but audio, the volume is measured in decibels, right? And so you want to aim for -20 to -18 decibels with your normal speaking voice. So you're speaking into your mic and you're seeing where that comes up on that scale. Are you between 18 and 20? Chances are you're going to be all around it, but you kind of want to be near that if you can. If it's not picking you up, if it's below -20, you need to adjust your gain. Bring that up so that, because you don't talk loudly, you need your microphone to be a little stronger, right?
Yep.
Am I saying all this right?
Yeah, you're saying it right. And I think if there's one thing that I can encourage you to do, if you're somebody who's planning on getting anytime you record anything, you want to double or triple check yourself before you get started. Like that's the reason, like even today we got here, we planned to start at 3. So I got here at 1:30 just so we could get stuff set up. By 2:15, we're doing audio tests, testing stuff out, because I have been the sucker who has waited till the last second to try to set something up. And then there's just, if you take a look around, there's so many little buttons and things and little gadgets and just levels and stuff like that. You don't want to rush into it. So giving yourself the time to just relax and do a couple tests, because you don't want to create content when you're in that state of mind of, is everything working right? Is everything good? Because you want to be listening. You want to be asking good questions. So being able to just, I know that before we started, we tested this out 3 times. It worked fine every time. So I'm a little bit, relieved the fact that, okay, let's have a conversation. Let's talk. So we don't have to worry about stuff malfunctioning or levels not being right. We tested it all out.
Eric and I talk at a pretty similar volume, but I got a friend, Brian True, who was in Springfield Hustles, and he's a teacher. And he would come in here and practice his presentation with his teacher voice. I'm like, dude, you've got, talk softer. But with microphones and audio interfaces, like if one of you talks loud and one of you talks soft, all that can be leveled out with your audio interface, but only if you test this beforehand, to your point. So here's some tips. You don't want to get super up close to your mic. Like a lot of people who would sing or talk on a microphone think that you're supposed to have it literally right on your lips. That's not good. You're a little too close then. You also don't want to be too far back. So a good rule of thumb is you want a hand's worth of space in between your microphone and your mouth.
Yep.
That's the advantage of having those boom arms, is you can bring that right up to your face.
Yep. And if you're somebody who maybe you start a podcast and you want to interview people, what Rob is describing right now, you will run into this problem almost every single time. The reason Rob and I are up on our microphones right now is because we've been around and we've done it before. If I'm recording somebody and they are on a podcast, or this setup that you see right now, this is something that I carry around and record people with. And a lot of times what will happen is we'll do audio checks, everybody will sound check, mic check, everything's good. And then they go and start the show and they're like, well, back in 1995, I did this. And before you know it, you're like, dude, I can't hear anything you're saying. So you got to tell your talent, hey, bro, sit up and close to the microphone. You don't want to be all up in it like this because it's going to sound crazy. And you don't want to be far back because then you can't hear him. You just want to sit here and be comfortable just like this.
Yeah.
So if you're the host, it's your responsibility to make sure that your guests are properly trained before they get on your show.
Really important, too, with microphones on the lower end. I mean, they get very, very finicky when you get far away. The more expensive the microphone is, the better I think it can adjust for some of that stuff.
Yep.
I actually just learned this, that there's a difference between your microphone pointing directly at your mouth versus at an angle. You still want it pointed at it, but if you're like looking right down at the microphone, that can get, I don't know if it's echoey, but it's just not as good. It's off axis versus on axis, and what is better is to have it be off axis.
Yep. And you'll notice, like, if you watch, even in music videos, right? If you're a Luke Combs fan, you've watched the the Beautiful Crazy music video. He's got this same microphone, but he's got a pop filter in front of it right here.
Mm-hmm.
And what that's doing is that's he knows his voice enough to know that for him to sound how he wants to sound, he needs this microphone at certain settings and a pop filter on top of it, because that's what produces the type of sound that he's trying to create. So even though I've got all this gear, I'm by no means an expert in every little setting and every little button and all this stuff. So whatever gear you get, spend some time learning how to use it, because the last thing you want to do is think, oh, my microphone doesn't sound as good as Joe Rogan's does. I need to buy a Joe Rogan microphone. No, you can learn how to use the microphone that you have. Yeah. So that's just a good piece of advice, because, don't think that you have to spend a ridiculous amount of money to get started, because it's not true.
I've had a couple people tell me I look like Luke Combs. So comment below if you think I look like Luke Combs.
Well, let's hear a note. We'll be able to tell right now.
I think I skipped. No, I didn't. You mentioned the pop filter. Yep. So if you look at your screen now, you're going to see what he's talking about. That picture on the right is a pop filter. You've probably seen this in videos. A phone cover accomplishes much of the same things, right? What's nice about a foam cover is it's nice to take outside. It deadens the wind a little bit as well. Either way, you're trying to get away from the pops and the hisses with those things.
Yep.
All right, so let's assume we've recorded our podcast, and we're going to do that in a little bit. We're doing that now.
Before we get started, let's record a piece real fast.
Okay.
On your computer.
All right.
So Rob's got this Blue Yeti microphone hooked up to his laptop with a USB cord. And keep in mind, this is one microphone that he's got right here. It's one mic. So what we're about to do is a demonstration. We're going to show you how you can record a podcast audio with just one microphone, 2 people to one computer.
Yep. All right, so I'm inside of a program called Audacity.
Let's show him what it looks like. Okay, right. So Rob's in Audacity right now. Let me go ahead and show you the...
And I will tell you that I just downloaded Audacity today. So if you feel like you're a beginner, you're getting taught by a total beginner here as well. But I'm going to hit this red record button, and we're going to start our recording. So here we go. Oh.
He's got an intro.
I got an intro. So let me click into that one. Dang. I don't know. Let's see.
Did Rob mention he was a beginner at this?
Yeah.
Did he share that with us when we first got started? So what he's about to do right now is open up. It's a free software, correct?
It's free, and we're recording audio now.
Oh, wow. We are recording audio for our podcast?
Yeah.
We don't have a name for it, Rob. What's the name of our podcast?
We do.
Oh, what is the name of it?
For the name of our new, it's Virtual SBDC. It's the first podcast where you get an inside look at what an SBDC business coaching session is like, because we're doing them as a podcast.
Sweet. Can I be on?
You're on it now, man.
I'm on the podcast. We're live.
We're not live.
Good stuff.
Well, maybe we are a little bit live.
So we've recorded a podcast now. Now that we've got an episode where we talked about how to make $1 million online, what are we going to do with it?
Well, we need to upload it somewhere that's going to distribute it out to the world.
So what you're saying is after I record the audio, then I have to upload it somewhere where the world can hear it?
Yeah, otherwise
That's
you're
too
just
much
talking
work,
to
Rob.
yourself.
I can't. That's too much work.
We're-
I can't do it.
We're going to show you how. We're getting there. So let's get back to editing here.
Oh, now we got to edit it too?
All in due
There's
time.
no way I have time for this, Rob.
All in due time. One of the nice things about an audio is that it doesn't require as much editing, in my opinion, than video.
Right.
I can look really stupid in a lot of videos, but with sound, it's one less thing. Not only with a video, you got to not only perfect your sound, but you got to perfect the video too.
Yep.
So I don't think it's that bad.
All right, let's see how fast you can do it.
Well, we're not there yet. So what you see, so are we on the computer screen?
Yeah.
All right.
You're in picture in picture.
So this is Audacity. That's the program that we were just using. You see 4 different tracks there. The first one is an intro or a setup for an episode, and then an outro towards the end. So that's voice. Your second line there is your music. So you have some music for your intro and your outro music as well. Kids know all about intros and outros. My kid knew what an intro and outro was at like 6 years old. And then you got 2 different audio tracks for each of your interviewers. One for me, one for Eric. So there's difference in editing, mixing, mastering. I don't think we need to get too much into this. Editing is like when you have all those different tracks, we need to trim it up, cut things out, take out the uhs and the ums. When I said something dumb, I can take that right out. That's the beauty of editing. Add music in there, rearrange things. Mixing it is like, okay, now we need to make it sound good and get it into one track. So take those 4 or 5 layers and put it into one track. Once it's in one track, we master it, we compress it, get the file size down, fix any volume issues that are in there. All that, really, you can combine that and say, that's editing.
Okay.
And it's an important part. It makes it sound good, but you don't have to do it. But once you start getting good at this, you're going to do all those things.
And you can do all that in the free software called, what is it?
Audacity.
It's free.
Yep.
Wow.
After a while, if you get good at this, you may find it's not powerful enough for you. You can go to something created by Adobe. That's kind of the standard in the industry. But yeah, Audacity will do what you need for free.
Good stuff.
So then, once you've got a file, like an audio file, you need to upload that to a host.
Which we just recorded, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. So there are 2 hosts that I'm recommending here. A free one, which is what we're going to use, is Anchor.fm. A lot of podcasts are hosted on something called Buzzsprout. Oh, on the wrong side again. So yeah, if you're willing to pay, I like Buzzsprout. If not, I like Anchor FM. There's plenty of other ones out there. Do you have experience with any of these?
So I use Libsyn. It's called Libsyn.com.
Yep,
It basically
very
gives me the
popular.
ability to upload it, and just like the rest of these, distribute it to multiple platforms.
Yep. So what happens is you upload it to Buzzsprout or Libsyn or Anchor FM, and then Anchor FM or Buzzsprout, they then distribute it to all the different players that people use to listen to podcasts. So a lot of people listen to Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you have a favorite platform, feel free to put that in the comment box. I didn't realize the one that I use is just not very popular anymore. But you upload that to your host. Your host creates what's called an RSS feed, and that host then sends that feed out to all the podcast apps so that you don't have to go upload it to every single platform. That would take a lot of time, and we don't want to do that. You have to prepare it a little bit, so you give everything a title. It might have authors. You might have an image for every episode, a description. Those descriptions are important. It's when people search, you've heard of search engine optimization. Well, when people search for podcasts, you want them to find you. So the more you put into your podcast episode descriptions, the more likely if they're searching for accounting, they're going to find your podcast because you had accounting throughout your podcast description. On the back end, it kind of looks just like boxes that you enter information in. It's not that hard. Any business owner can do it. If you've been doing your own Facebook page, your own website, you can do a podcast. I promise you. This is what an RSS feed would look like. It's just gobbledygook to most of us. It's like markup language. It's awesome that Buzzsprout creates it for me because I certainly can't write in that kind of language. So yes, your host submits it to all of these major apps, but first you actually have to sign up for each of those apps, depending. So Anchor FM will do that for you for a lot of the major apps. I didn't have to go sign up with Spotify; they did that for me.
Okay.
But there are a lot of different apps. Here's the popular ones, right? So this chart that you see on your screen now shows how popular the different platforms are. So Apple Podcast is top of the class, but Spotify is definitely catching up. Google Podcast kind of came out of nowhere and came up to the top 3 pretty fast. I use Podcast Addict. What do you probably use Apple Podcasts, right?
So Spotify and Libsyn, that's basically all I use.
What do you listen to them on?
I listen to them on Spotify.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're part of that 33%. So there's a lot of platforms that you want to make sure your podcast is on. This list is a good place to start. You can Google like top podcasting platforms to make sure you're on all the big ones. Once you get it set up, it's there. I mean, you're still just creating one file. You don't have to worry about submitting it to 25 different places.
Saves time.
It does. So again, at the end, we're going to create one of these on the fly. But one last thing that we want to talk about are what are some helpful tools and resources if you're going to do this. So Fiverr. I know you like Fiverr, don't you?
Love Fiverr.
Yeah. So Fiverr is a great place if you need someone to record your intro or outro with like one of those awesome like voiceover artists. Like Pat Flynn does this. He has someone else record his intros where he's like, what the heck is his podcast called? I'm blanking.
Smart
now.
Passive Income.
Yeah. Welcome to Smart Passive Income with your host, Pat Flynn.
Yeah.
Well, that was a voiceover artist that he hired off of Fiverr. And any of us can do that. A lot of times with just $5. That's where the website got its start. What have you used Fiverr for?
So if somebody, I've got a couple of people who will say, hey, Eric, I want you to record this podcast for me. I want to make this show. Somebody will say, can you make me a logo? Right? I could, right? I have Photoshop and Canva. I could make a logo. It might take me 2 or 3 hours to do it. Or I could simply go on Fiverr.com and pay somebody $15 or $20 to do it.
Yeah.
Because to me, my time's worth more than $10 or $15. So if I pay somebody else to do it and it gets done, let's say I want to make a logo, an intro, and an outro. I could do all that stuff. It might take me 10 hours to do it when I could simply pay somebody $15, $20, $50 to bust it out, and then it's done, and I don't have to worry about it. So
a lot of times a lot better than you could have done too.
10 times better than I could have done it.
Yeah, especially with these voiceovers. Like they've got that radio booming voice that's epic.
Been doing it for years.
Yeah, and they got high quality recording equipment. So, if you have a really great intro, you can capture like new guests right away because the first thing they're hearing is, oh man, they got an awesome intro.
Yep.
Even if your quality is like a little subpar, well, they just heard that cool intro, so you at least got them to listen for at least 5 or 10 seconds.
Yep.
That's half the battle sometimes. Fiverr can be used for your podcast logo, for the cover art, for the episode art. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is you can pay someone to transcribe every word that came out of your mouth. So we've been talking for an hour now. All that could be transcribed word for word. We put that in a podcast description. Now, every single one of those keywords is acting as search engine optimization for us. It's $10, $15, $20 well spent for a lot of people's business models.
Software or the service I use for that's rev.com. I think that's $1 a minute for transcription, but it works. I mean, there's some where you can get 10, 15, 20 cents a minute, but if you want a high quality one, I think it's $1 a minute, and I think it's like 99.9% accurate, and they'll even break it down like Rob said this, Eric said this, so it just kind of goes all the way through. Yeah.
So
another cool way
to
high
create
quality
a lot of content. Know how to
content.
spell words right.
Yeah, they know how to spell words right,
yeah.
put commas in the right place, punctuation, all that stuff I'm not any good at.
Yeah. Next is the podcasthost.com. So they've got an online course you can take, plenty of blog articles. They have a podcast on creating podcasts, on the craft of being a podcaster. Kind of what we're doing today, I suppose, only he does it all the time.
Yep.
Next, someone brought him up, Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income. He is who I learned this from, in addition to Amy Porterfield. He has a complete podcasting tutorial that you can subscribe to and listen. It'll do better than what we're probably doing here in an hour. If you want to pay $800, you will get the best instruction you could possibly get on creating a podcast from him.
I've got it.
Yep. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You're a junkie on the courses.
I love it.
But if you do nothing else, go subscribe to Smart Passive Income Podcast.
Yeah.
You will like it. It's not just about podcasts. It's about any source of passive income. And what we know when we hang out with enough successful entrepreneurs is most of them have 5, 6, 7 different sources of passive income.
Yep.
That is how you build wealth. That is how you create stability as an entrepreneur, because one of those can go away and you still got 6 other sources of income.
And again, let's tie that, what you just said right there, back to your opening phrase of, what was it, the Oklahoma what?
Oklahoma land rush.
The stake in the ground?
Yeah.
Right.
Stake your claim.
Stake your claim, yeah. So if you're the business, right, or you're the person right now who wants to stake your claim in your industry, right, this is the perfect time to do it, because if you do it and you do it well and you do it for, I mean, it's not like it's not one of them things where you have to do it for 5 or 10 years. Like if you're somebody who's in an industry where there's just not much audio content and you create it and you're the go-to player and you interview 20 people that's in your industry, now all of a sudden you're the expert. Now all of a sudden you've staked your claim. So Good point right there.
I think this is the last one, podcastinsights.com. They got some guides. They review different equipment and pieces of software for podcasters. And they also have a podcast as well that you can subscribe to, Podcasting Simplified. All right, so now we're to the point where we get to demonstrate this live. Prior to us going live here, I sat down and created a name for a podcast, some cover art for that. I recorded an intro and an outro that had some music behind it. And with the anticipation that today, Eric and I were going to record a little piece of content. We're going to slip it in there and edit it and do the whole process. And you can see it, and you'll be able to pull it right up on Spotify live, like real time. So you want to do that?
Let's see it. So we've already recorded it, correct?
We did.
If someone's just now hopped on, and of course, this whole entire Facebook Live is an example of a podcast because we're recording all this right now. But what Rob's about to do is show you how easy it is to take recorded content, edit it quickly, and distribute it on a hosting platform that pushes it out to the Spotify's, the iTunes, the Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts at. So let's look at Rob's screen and see what he's doing right now.
All right. So right now, these 2 lines here, there's 2 because it's in stereo, left side and right side. I just want to clip everything out besides that little area where we talked. And so I am going to click this button here. And now I want to move this anywhere I want.
What's that track right there? What'd you just move?
That's what you and I recorded about 15 minutes ago.
All right. What do you got on top there?
This, I think that is my outro. Let's play it and find out.
Turn it up on your computer.
We're recording audio now. Oh, wow. We're recording audio from
Oh, that's us. I need to get over there.
Thanks for listening to Virtual SB.
That's my outro.
If you like this episode, remember to subscribe.
So as I said, I also recorded an intro. Let me import audio. And I'm just going to select this out of my downloads folder. Right there. Open. So there's my intro. Now I want to slide my interview with Eric over. I'll overlap it a little bit. And then my outro is up here. We'll slide that over.
Bam.
All right. So let's just play this, see if this worked. I hope it worked. As I said, total beginner.
Virtual SBDC, the show that takes you behind closed doors to listen in on an actual business coaching session. Brought to you by the Springfield Small Business Development Center.
It's a free software, correct?
It's free, and we're recording audio now.
Oh, wow. We're recording audio for our podcast?
So it's super soft because my microphone was too far away. It's not a good microphone for an interview style.
He's referring to the Blue Yeti, by the way.
Yep. And then here's my outro.
Thanks for listening to Virtual SBDC. If you like this episode, remember to subscribe. If you live in the Springfield, Ohio area and want to connect with a business coach at the Springfield Small Business.
So you get the point. That can function as a podcast. It's not horrible. It's not great. But I did that at my desk with no experience.
What'd that intro and outro cost you?
It was free.
Oh, you made it, didn't you?
Yeah. So I got free music off of YouTube Creator Studio, put that track behind the audio I recorded on my Blue Yeti, and now I got an intro and an outro.
And by no means did we say the Blue Yeti's a bad microphone. The setup we have right now, how we were both, an arm's length
can't
away
even
from
reach
it,
it.
like this isn't the ideal setup for recording a podcast. If we had that Blue Yeti right here, as close as we are with this microphone, that would have sounded a lot better. And again, the audio that you were hearing was from Rob's computer, so it wasn't necessarily crystal clear, but he's just trying to give you an idea of, hey, we just literally recorded 20 seconds of us talking, and what he did was combine that with an intro and an outro. So now let's go ahead and export that. How long does that take?
It should be pretty fast because it's only 1:15. So
Let's see
file, export, and we're going to export it as an MP3.
And again, this is all in the free downloadable software Audacity.
So we're going to call this Virtual SBDC Episode 1. Save it as an MP3. So, okay. So my computer's 10 years old. So if this is going fast, then I'm sure it's really fast on most people's computer. We're done. So now we need to go upload that to our host, right?
Let's do it.
All right. So as I said, we're going to use Anchor FM. I'll switch over to my Anchor FM tab. Now, I already created an Anchor account to test this.
So we got a question. I want you to answer this as you go through this right here. The question is, when you say subscribe, where do your guests do that? Is that on the podcast platform you use? So Rob, when there's an option for your listener to subscribe, make sure you point that out as well. Good question, Heather.
Yeah. Yep. So when we look at this in Spotify, I'll point that out. So I'm on my dashboard for Anchor FM. You see, here's the cover art I created today, Virtual SBDC with Rob Alexander.
That's a good looking picture, Rob.
Thanks. It's already available on 3 platforms. So Anchor pushed this out to Spotify and a couple other ones. We're going to create new episode and click to upload. And I just got to go find that piece of audio that we just created. And helps if I'm in downloads. All right, so Virtual SBDC Episode 1, open. So it's uploading. It helps that it's only a minute long. It was very fast. All right, and so now we're going to save the episode. Now we got to give it a little bit of information. This is what creates the title and the episode art if you need it. So let's just call this testing out how to make a podcast. I'm going to go back in and delete this. This ain't going to be anything anybody wants to hear. So description, something no one wants to hear. We're going to publish this now. If I want a different art for this episode, I could do that. I'm just going to keep the podcast art in there. I'm not going to worry about a season number or an episode number. There's some other options you can do here. I don't think we cussed today, so we're going to call this clean. And that's pretty much it. Publish now. So at this point, it has saved this file and it is pushing it out to all the different channels. Now I know that Spotify is one that they've already set up. So let's go see if it's there.
In real time. Good stuff.
I hope it shows up. All right, so I just see the one I created earlier, my test. I don't see that one yet. It may take some time for that RSS feed to matriculate through the internet, go through all the different tubes it has to go through. I'm hitting refresh to see if it's there. I don't see it. However, to answer Heather's question, I'm in Spotify right now. If I click follow, well, it wants me to log in. That's how you do it. That every platform is going to have a different way to subscribe to a podcast. For here, you're just hitting follow. It looks different, I'm sure, in Apple. But let's say, I mean, this is here. So this is actually just our ringtone when you call into our office. That's what I uploaded first. I don't hear anything playing, though.
You've probably got it set up a little bit with your settings. But, I think bigger picture, the fact that Rob was just able to create, record a podcast. He had the intro, he had the logo, he had everything set up, again, that you can create on your own or that you can pay somebody on Fiverr.com or Upwork.com $5, $10, $20, $50 to do. That way you don't have to do that. And then all of a sudden you've got your podcast and it's, and when you simply upload it to Anchor.fm.com? Anchor.fm. Bam, you're live. So Rob has just, showed you how easy it is to not only record a podcast, but what types of equipment that you can use, how to edit that podcast, but most importantly, how to publish that podcast. And I think that that's the one thing, like if you're somebody who's like, man, this was cool. Like we got a good comment right here. This person says, I'm so interested in learning more. I'm located in Columbus. How do I connect to get this education? You just simply send the Small Business Development Center an email or a Facebook message. Say, hey, I watched your podcast. I'd love to come in and sit down and learn more, right? Yep. That's basically all you would have to do right there. And if you're somebody who's like, man, I want to make this podcast, I want to do it, what I would encourage you to become obsessed about is just hitting that publish button. Don't worry about making, it has to be perfect. Don't worry about having the best design or having the best, all the RSS stuff. I don't even understand the RSS stuff. It's not a mandatory requirement to get started. But if you're serious about it, the mandatory requirement is just publish something. Just get something out there. Even if you, on your way, I'm a big fan of Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, and he's got a podcast where he records in his car. He's got a 10-minute drive to work every day. So every day, he doesn't do it every day, but a few days a week, what's up, everybody? This is Russell Brunson. Today we're talking about this, right? And then he'll do his intro, and then he'll talk for 10 minutes on his way to work, and he'll send it to somebody that just uploads it to his podcast platform. It's not some high polished, highly produced, like you can hear other cars in the background, you can hear his turn signal flicking and stuff like that, you can hear a horn, but it's like, it's good information and I like it and I know what to expect and I know it comes regularly, so therefore I listen to it.
The good thing is that when you first start and it sucks, hardly anyone's gonna be listening to it anyway.
Yep.
So your audience will grow as you're learning and getting better, and you have to be okay with putting stuff out there that does suck in the beginning. It won't be your proudest work. That's okay.
Yep.
You will not get better unless you put out that bad stuff. You won't get better.
Yep. And,
period.
I want to give a shout out to Jeff Pinkleton real fast because, Chuck had mentioned the comment. He said, maybe somebody should start a business podcasting. And I thought about that. But I'm a big fan of people just starting out and just trying to stay consistent. And Jeff Pinkleton from The Gathering, he started a podcast. He started recording it probably 3 or 4 months ago. And when he started, he was just doing some local people, telling some stories and stuff like that. But his next podcast is going to be with a former NFL wide receiver. Do you remember the guy's name?
No.
I don't remember his name, but he's going to interview a former NFL player on his next podcast.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Like, that's good stuff because he's got some consistency. He's got some distribution. People are talking about it, Mm-hmm. And it's good stuff.
It's easy to get those guests, too, because they can do it from their home. They don't got to travel to Springfield to be on this.
Yep, especially with the pandemic we're in right now. Like, everybody in the world is chilling at home right now.
Yeah.
And if you were to copy and paste a email or a Facebook message to 25 people, 12 of them are going to be like, let's do it. When can we set it up? I'll do it right now. I would love to. That's exactly what they'd say.
Yep.
So very encouraging. Good stuff, Rob.
Do we have any questions from anyone in the room or anyone online?
Let's hear them. We got a list of questions from the
yes.
room. Let's get started.
There's 600 people here, and they all got lists. It's awesome.
How often should one create and record a podcast?
Very good question. So let me speak to in the Pat Flynn course that Rob had spoke briefly about. Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income, he's got a podcasting course, and I bought the course just to learn how he delivered the information and basically what Pat suggests that you do. And the question from the audience was, how often should you record? And this is what Pat suggested. He said, in the beginning, you want to do a few things up front. You want to set up your Anchor FM and all of your hosting platform and stuff like that. You want to get your logo. You want to have your logo done. And you want to have your frequency in place, your frequency and your duration in place. Because what you don't want to do is have your first episode that's 8 minutes long by yourself, and then your second episode, you interview your best friend, and that's 45 minutes long. And then on your third episode, you interview a principal from a school, and you guys speak for 2 hours. And on your fourth episode, you speak by yourself for 7 minutes again. You want to have some consistency. So you want to have a rhythm. You want to know, okay, I'm going to publish twice a week that are going to be about 7 minutes long, and I'm going to talk about this topic. Because in your podcast description, you want to be able to say, hey, my name's Eric. I talk about podcasting, and I talk about how to start a small business. So if someone's interested in podcasting and starting a small business, that may get them to tune in. And then within your podcast, what a lot of people do is in their outro, they'll even say, I publish every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Subscribe to learn, subscribe to listen to more, whatever your call to action is right there. So I guess to answer that question simply, how often should you publish? That's up to you, right?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It depends. How big of a part of your life is this podcast?
Yep.
As a business owner, if you have to wear 20 hats and it's just you, it may not be feasible to do a podcast every day. In fact, it's not.
Yep.
Doing a podcast once a week is going to be ambitious for you. If it's an hour long, that's more editing as well. So you can do a 5-minute format every day, and that won't be as much work as an hour-long podcast every day. So you got to take on what you can realistically handle.
Yeah, I love the Russell Brunson podcast, and then I listen to another one, Billy Jean is Marketing. But Billy Jean, he cusses, he talks crazy, he tells inappropriate stories, but I listen to it. I like him. And his podcast is about 5 minutes. Right, that's including the intro and the outro, which is probably a minute and a half of it altogether. So
I think if you're talking about hour-long podcasts, to me they tend to be a weekly podcast.
Yep.
Whereas these 5-minute deals, I often see those more as daily ones.
Yep. Good question.
How do they determine whether they're going to do a 30 or an hour?
Yeah. So the question is, how do you determine if you're going to do a short podcast or a 30-minute one versus an hour one? Actually, I think that's a very smart question to ask. People have preferences. Their hour-long podcasts are very popular, and you might think that's a really long time, but it takes me an hour to mow my grass. I like hour-long podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of people an hour to commute to work. I like hour-long podcasts. But some people are like, I need quick hits, and so they really like these 5-10-minute formats too.
Yep.
I honestly see them grouping at both ends of that spectrum and not so much in between. The most popular time duration is towards the low end at 5-10 minutes, and then at the high end like at 45 to an hour.
Yep.
And not very much in between, honestly.
Again, it goes back to your show format. If you reach out, again, like my suggestion to folks is, write out a list of 20 people that you'd like to have on your podcast or interview, and then send them a message, say, hey, you want to be on? But just know that you wouldn't want to reach out to a high-level person and get that person on your podcast and try to only interview them for 10 minutes. Like if you get an opportunity to interview somebody that you respect, that you've looked up to, and that you've sought out to interview, you want to try to give yourself 45 as much time as you can. I think the most important to answer that question, the simplest way, is just to know that up front. Before you even click record, just kind of know, okay, I want this to be a 20-minute segment, about 20 minutes. That way, if you're timing yourself and you're 18 minutes in, let's wrap it up, And that way your viewers, what's most important is the consistency for your viewers. They know what to expect, and I think that's probably what's most important.
Yeah, because I've seen when people have hour-long shows, if there's a really good guest, they'll break that down into 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2,
Yep.
because they do not want to go longer than an hour.
Yep.
Everyone expects their episodes to be about an hour.
Yep.
So that part's important.
Okay, so should the podcast be pre-recorded or live? If it's pre-recorded, how in the world do you work in question and answers with the audience?
That's a good question for you.
Yeah.
Eric.
So the question was, should the podcast be pre-recorded or live? So Rob asked me before we got started. He said, Eric, have you ever recorded just an audio podcast and uploaded it? I said no, because I haven't. My style of content creation is much like what you see here right now, is recording the video, recording the audio. That way, and then live streaming it, because what you'll learn quickly is that the most time-consuming piece of this is the editing and the distribution of it. If we record an hour-long podcast, it's going to take 8 to 10 minutes just to download that podcast to the computer, and then to edit it, and then to export it, and then to upload it again. That takes a lot of time right there. So I'm a big fan of okay, let's set everything up the best we can and just click go live. That way, when we click finish and it's end and it's done, it's over. We don't have anything else to do. So I'm a big fan of recording it live, even though there's a lot of people who would argue and say, that's not a podcast, that's just a live stream. You're right, it is, but it's a live video podcast is what I call it.
Can you even do podcasts live if it's just audio? I mean, it works on Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah, so if you go, Rob, pull up a software real fast while I'm talking. It's called repurpose.io. Pull that up real fast. And I think I'm giving you all a secret out of my bag of $1 million tricks right here, but I think this will be helpful for a lot of folks that editing. Yeah, she said editing is a bear. You're absolutely right. And I mean, I like to edit. It's where the creative piece is. It's just time consuming, and I don't like to do it. It takes too much time, So, with this service cart right here that I'm about to show you that Rob's got, repurpose.io, this is like $20 a month right here. And what this service allows you to do is you've got all the icons there, the podcast, the Facebook, the Zoom, the YouTube, the Instagram, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, stuff like that. So what this software, Rob, are you hip to this software?
I am not. No.
This is about to be your best friend. Rob's about to become a new subscriber to this service today. Basically, with this service right here, I can set up my Facebook live streams to record just as we are right now. And as soon as I click finish or I click done, what happens automatically is this software has the ability to pull that entire live stream from Facebook and publish that to YouTube, to LinkedIn. It pulls the audio and spits it over to my podcast platform. So literally, once I click done, that live video, this live stream that we just recorded, can literally be on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all over the place, and I didn't have to click any extra buttons or upload stuff anywhere else. So that's a like I said, that's a one out of my $1 million bag of tricks right there. I like that one.
It says it's only $12.42 per month if you buy it a whole year.
A year,
upfront.
yeah. So it's good stuff. It's just a cool way to save time. So I don't have it set up right now. Like I'm sure Rob, with a couple clicks of a button, Rob could have, this entire thing that we've just done on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on audio without doing any extra work. So
I'm a control freak, so I'd probably be the one that pre-records it and takes out all the dumb parts and uploads the smart stuff. So.
Good question. So I didn't even answer the question. So with the podcast, let's say we were just recording this without any type of audience or without any type of Q&A, and those are more intimate conversations right there. I'm a big fan of the Tim Ferriss show. I love Tim Ferriss. I love he's a cool dude.
4-hour work week.
That's cool, but I'm a big fan of his philosophy on life, what I'm saying, just how he does things. I listened to an interview of him and Jerry Seinfeld the other day. It was like an hour and a half long. I listened to every second of it just because, Jerry Seinfeld, a lot of people are like, who cares at Seinfeld? But this dude has been a comedian for years, and the whole premise of the podcast was, what are the things that you do on a regular basis to stay creative, right? And Jerry Seinfeld talked about how, as a comedian, you write jokes. and you do that every single day. You do it at the same time every single day. But because that wasn't a live streamed event, because it was just Tim Ferriss and Jerry Seinfeld having a conversation that was being recorded. They weren't performing for other, like right now, Rob and I are putting on a show for the people who are on Facebook Live. We're not able to just dive in and talk about all the different stuff that we could be talking about. We're entertaining people right now. But when we pre-record it, it eliminates that ability to take the Q&A. So it's just another way up front that as the creator, as the podcast host, you want to be able to, like, this is your show. You get to make the rules. You call the shots. You can cuss if you want to. You can talk crazy if you want to. You can be whoever you want to be. But you get to create that up front. And I think, the fact that, but a lot of people struggle with giving themselves permission to be like, okay, this is how I want to do it, and just do it. So it's however you want to. If you want to take Q&A, if you want to, what Russell Brunson does sometimes is he'll have, like, let's say he has somebody, one of his friends asked him a question, right? He'll have that person record themselves saying, hey, Russell, what do you think about this type of funnel, and why is it most successful for this type of business? And he'll send that question to Russell, and Russell will play it, and he'll say, all right, guys, I got this great question from my buddy Rob. I'm going to queue up the question, and I'm going to go right back into it, and I'm going to answer it. And then it's really up to you. You can do it however you want to.
The only way to accomplish it is to get the questions beforehand. That's the easy answer. So we're at almost an hour and a half. If you have more questions, please put them in the comments field. For those who are here today, obviously we're here, so we can talk after we end this video.
Good stuff.
Eric, man, thank you so much. You didn't have to come in here and do this. You do this because I think you care about Springfield. You love entrepreneurism. You like when people take a chance. You want them to quit being a salary slave.
Salary slave, yes.
Yeah, so I appreciate your time,
Well,
man.
because of the help of the Small Business Development Center, I'm no longer attached to a 9-to-5, and I literally just have all this free time on my hands that I don't know what to do with. So coming down here and recording this was really fun. So I appreciate it.
Yep. So if you were intrigued by this, if you want to tackle this, understand, as Eric said, we have 12 different people here who can help you. And some of us know a little bit about podcasts. We can also point you to resources that can help you produce it if that's what you want to do. But we tend to help you right where you're at. So if you're in like the $0 solution land, we're going to help you figure that out. But also just some of the strategy that goes behind it. It's one thing to technically know how to produce this. It's another thing to do it smart, to know who your target audience is, to know what the right message is to share to them. That's where having a wall to bounce things off of is super important. And, every business owner, in my opinion, ought to have a coach. Doesn't make you a weak business owner, makes you a smart one.
Everybody needs a coach.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a coach. So Heather says, thank you for all the useful information. We appreciate everybody who commented live with us and everybody who participated. Like I said, Rob and I, neither one of us claim to be podcast guru experts. There's people out there who are 10 times smarter at this than we are. We just want to be the catalyst of the person who speaks life into that person who has the idea, who doesn't know where to get started. Just encourage you to take that first step, take that next step. Pursue your dreams, do whatever it takes, and you can accomplish it. And if anything, it doesn't matter whether you get paid from the podcast or not. If you're having fun, that's what it's really about right there. So, Rob, anything else before we close it off today?
Do not forget, we are in a unique point in time. It's the wild, wild west. Go stake your claim before it's too late.
Stake your claim.
'Cause
It makes sense now, Rob. It finally
Yeah.
just clicked. Stake your claim.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
If you type SBDC into Spotify, you're going to see my podcast pop up first. I staked my claim.
Staked his claim.
We're the SBDC leader on podcasting.
Good
Crazy.
stuff.
10 years after this became popular. So go out there and do it, guys. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate you. And please leave the comments. We'll come back in and answer them.
Done.